All right, so really quick, this is my technique for doing leaves. Most of it is going to be a oil pastel. In this case, I have a pale green. It could be various shades of green or yellow, or um, maybe if you're doing like fall foliage, if you want to do orange or something. But for this one, just basic green plants. A couple other things I'll be using, a very similar colored green pencil. That's just going to be mostly to just draw the outlines of the leaves. I wanted to have kind of the same color as the major colored pencil that I'm going to be working on. I'm just drawing like I said, a few leaves here. I'm not going to do too much for this one, but this is a technique I use to kind of fill my scenes in with lots of kind of foliage, sort of hiding in the background. So I'm kind of doing it bigger here. It's kind of a sort of a more major theme to this. But anyway, like I said, a quick outline with the colored pencil. The reason I'm using the colored pencil the same as this is I don't want to pick up any like new colors. If you were to use like a graphite pencil, you'd start to get gray along the edges, and I don't necessarily want that. So I'm just going to fill the thing in with this. In this case, I'm using a Sennelier, sort of a palish green color, oil pastel. I'm not going to be like too detailed because I'll be doing details with colored pencil. One thing that makes this technique work really well is the paper I'm using. This is a 600 grit sanded paper. I picked it up from Blick Art Supply. Now all of my major works I use this same paper. It's archival, acid-free, all that kind of stuff. The highest quality. But I'm making stuff with collectors in mind, so I'm going to use the best materials I can. The colored pencils I'm using are the Faber Castell Polychromos. Let's see if I can find that label here. It's a little hard to see because it's pretty reflective, but they're an oil-based colored pencil, so ideally the same binder. And for this one, I'm just using, like I said, I'm using three that we already talked about, the pale green, and I have a black, and then I have an off-white. One other thing I'm going to be using, and mine's really gross now, is a blending stump. Don't like to use my fingers to blend oil pastels. A few reasons. One, working with the sanded paper, my fingers would get really, really worn down and raw. But also, I don't know if oil pastels are this way, but oil paints often have chemicals in them that you don't necessarily want on your skin. Like the yellows have cadmium in them, whites might have lead. So I try to not use my fingers to blend any kind of pigmented art substances. So I'm going to use, like I said, the blender stump. Now, that's how I'm kind of getting the details in a little bit better on this. Okay, so I'm going to take, at this point, I'm going to go in with colored pencils. Now these are razor sharp. And I'm just going to draw the seam on the leaf. And we'll change to black for this one here. But this is, like I said, this is a great technique I found for like doing highly detailed oil pastel works. So I'm just gonna use this the black to do some shading where the shadows would be under these leaves, and maybe along the edge. I'm gonna have the light coming from this angle here. Get darker, of course, as I get closer to underneath these two leaves. So using just a light pressure to kind of do a lighter gray here. I kind of want to follow that middle vein of the leaf a little bit. Now this isn't going to be perfect, but again, usually these are something I kind of use as sort of a low detail thing in the background. Switch to my light color again and kind of go in at the tips here. So wherever my highlights are going to be, I color those in. Again, great technique. The sanded paper really makes this work really well. I do wind up having to sharpen my pencils a whole lot. This does eat through your colored pencils really fast. A little bit of highlight along that rim there. And then sometimes if these are smaller, I don't need to do this, but I'll bring in that blending stump again. And the oil pastel will pick up the pigment in the colored pencil. So I can kind of blend it here a little bit better. And that's about it. I mean, again, these are going to be something I use in the background of a, or as details in a scene, but not really kind of the important section. So to give you an example, I have this work here. So you can see I've used this leaf technique all along here, back here, using a different green in some cases here. But yeah, so that's my technique for doing leaves. So thanks everybody, and good night.